It's great to be here today. I'm here today with Betty. Thank you again for joining us for this conversation about working with your recruiter. I know a lot of you are probably wondering, what's going to happen next year? I'm going to apply, and so many thoughts about how to approach your application process. So that's why we're here today, especially because we want to make sure that you're set up for success, not only for knowing about the process but also making sure that you know how to make it the most efficient and also be a partner to your recruiter. If you haven't met me, I am Jamie. I run the APAC Connect with Google program. I hear there's a few of the people joining from India, Germany. Thank you all for joining from everywhere. I know it's actually awesome that we can do something like this because we can connect in this kind of way. And we're joining from Singapore.
Hi everyone, I'm Betty and I'm a recruiter in the talent and outreach programs here at Google, and I recruit for software engineers full time. So I'm here today. I'm really happy and excited to share with you more on tips on how to work with your recruiter. And this is my first YouTube Live.
Yay! We're really excited to have Betty. Betty started about 4 months ago.
Yes, 4 months ago.
And she did a huge world tour, not world tour, maybe a Southeast Asia tour, to meet with quite a few of you actually on campus and at different outreach events. So if you ever have any insights that you want to share about your journey since you joined, please do share. We do want to cover quite a few things today. So bear with us for the first 30 minutes where we'll share our tips about the recruiting process, how does it work at Google, who is your recruiter, like what are they going to do for you, how do you communicate with them the best, as well as interviews and just the offer process to give you insights and tips on how to be successful in that. And then we'll have 15 minutes at the end for your live Q&A. We also have my lovely teammate Elena on the chat box. So do reach out to her. She will answer all of your questions as well as make sure that we get the live questions towards the end. So bear with us. We're just going to just share a lot of information with you, but this is all because we want you to be successful. And this video is available afterwards. So you can also rewatch it later on. So the first thing I do want to ask Betty is, what is one thing that surprised you most about Google once you joined 4 months ago?
For me, one thing that really surprised me was how all the projects were focused on thinking big, making an impact, and there are such diverse projects available as we build for everyone. And so an example, a very recent one, would be the quantum supremacy breakthrough that a team in Google had.
Yes. That one was such a big one. You can read more about it at the keyword, Google's blog, and find out more about that. And I also do want to share that our motto, Build for Everyone, is really at the core of everything we do, which is why this conversation with you all is so important, because without more representation, without focusing on efforts like this, we're unable to represent our users, and all the products that we create aren't as user friendly and user first. So that's why we do want to have this conversation with you all to make sure you guys understand how it works at Google and make sure that we are touching base in this kind of way. So we're just gonna go ahead into the recruiting process.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kick it off. Yeah. So for the recruiting process, if you look up Google Careers or even Google Students, you get to see that there are many applications over there. So all you need to do is to submit your resume online and click through it. So that is all we need from you. And what happens is that for some countries across Asia Pacific, you will get an online coding assessment. And after, if you are going through smoothly through the coding assessment, then you would also receive a technical phone interview from a recruiter. And that is when a recruiter reaches out to you. So it's at this point in time that you want to make a good connection with your recruiter and also ask all the questions you have. So our Google recruiters here are all here to help you. We are your advocates.
Yes.
We will help you get through the recruiting process as smoothly as possible. So definitely reach out to us, ask us the questions that you have. So after the technical phone screen, so for internships, you would do mostly online phone kind of technical interviews. As for full-time roles, you will get on-site technical interviews. This means that we will fly you to the nearest Google office so that you would meet our Google engineers face to face and carry out your 4 on-site interviews. So your recruiter will also prep you ahead of time to tell you what to expect, how to best prepare for your technical interviews. And we look at the way you do coding, how you do structure your data structures and algorithm. So these are many aspects that your recruiter will bring you through to better prepare for your technical interviews. So after all these and the more stressful part of the technical interview, what happens is that we have a committee of Google engineers who come together to look at your interview feedback. And that is when they will decide from the feedback whether to proceed with your application. And that is when recruiters will reach out to you in a timely manner to let you know of such updates. And after this process, what we have is sometimes what we call a team match, which means that you get a call with the potential host or your manager for the project that you'll be working on. So if all this goes well, you'll be getting an offer from us to do an internship here at Google or get a full-time role.
All right. Yeah, that was a lot of information.
Yeah.
Thank you, Betty, for covering the entire process. If you do have questions, Elena is more than willing to answer those, so do ask away in the chat box. We're also going to cover effective communication. Now, this is important for us to share, not only because these are tips that we've heard from our recruiters, but really because we want you to be successful. So know that this comes from the bottom of our hearts of wanting to be your advocate and partner throughout the process. So I'm just going to share a few practical tips that will make sure that you are successful in that communication. So the first tip that I have is that you should read all emails from top to bottom. I think a lot of us, when we see a lot of words, we just get like a word paralysis nowadays because we have so much information coming at us at all points in time. But just know that every information in that email is there for a reason. So we are putting that information for you to be successful, whether that's developmental material for you to study for your interviews, or whether that's a little bit more about the business on the Google side, on the Google business side, to make sure that you understand who are the people you're going to meet with, right? So yes, don't miss out on all the information there. I would take the time that you need to read through it thoroughly.
And I have something to add.
Yeah.
Usually the recruiters, if they need your reply soon or they want to ask about your availability, they'll actually write it usually towards the end of the email.
Yes.
And we definitely want you to reply as promptly as possible.
Yes, that actually goes straight into my next tip, which is that you should always respond to all the questions that are asked of you. And sometimes you might feel like a lot of back and forth is happening. Sometimes that actually might mean that it's better to pick up the phone and just talk over the phone, right? So we tend to do a lot of email tagging here at Google as well. But ultimately, that will help you make sure that your process is going along faster and that the email communication is more efficient. So I would recommend that you just copy the email that you received and then start bolding answers directly there. Sometimes that makes it easier for you to remember all the questions that you need to answer. All right. And then the third piece is that some of our recruiters have different ways of setting up time with you. Some of them might have calendar invites where they just give you a block and you can just choose the appointment slot. Some others might just ask you in general your availability. Just make sure to, just respond and look out for those little cues, because that will also help them be effective in getting back to you. And the other piece to know is that our recruiters are all around the world, literally.
Yeah.
Even in APAC, I think they're in like every country that we can even name right now, right?
Yes,
So
different time zones.
Exactly, so many time zones. Just be mindful of that. So they're not necessarily not responding to you or not getting back to you at the time that you respond, because they're everywhere. Right? So timing wise, it might not always be the most ideal fit, but as long as you do your part in responding to the questions that you've been asked, you can be confident that they'll get back to you. Yep. Okay. And this is the last tip that hopefully helps you stay rest assured that the recruiters aren't necessarily not trying to respond, but rather our recruiters are really probably, since they are all over the world and given the time zones and the differences, they're probably just being mindful about their work-life balance as well as your work-life balance. So they probably don't want to respond to you at a time that it might be inefficient or, not mindful on your end. And some recruiters might, on the other hand, be okay with, that kind of interaction on a more casual basis. So yeah, just try to understand what works best for your recruiter, and that will help you be more successful in that profession.
Yeah, and I can add on. So for this part about communication, if you do have a deadline, like a competing offer, or you have your university schedule, there is exams coming up, definitely let your recruiter know so we can work around that, such that we can make sure that you get a timely response from us.
Yes, that's actually a great point. So actually that helps me move on to when to contact your recruiter. So yeah, university deadlines is a must to share because we don't want you to feel like we're just adding more burden to your plate. As students, there's so many activities, so much homework, so scholarship programs, internships that you have to go for. So as long as you communicate that upfront, our recruiters will do their best to adhere to your schedule and make sure that they're keeping you updated with a realistic and relevant timeline. And then the other pieces, offers or any other company deadlines that you might have. Maybe you are also enrolling for an MBA program while you're going for a Google internship at the same time. Those can feel like they're conflicting. As long as you communicate that upfront, our recruiters will work with you to make sure that you make the best informed decision. And then another tip is that if you do update your resume, do send it, right? Do send it as a PDF. That will help our recruiters be successful in making sure that it's sent to the relevant parties, your interviewers, and that everyone is, up to date about that information as well. I know it sometimes feels like, oh, this is just such a small change. But it's okay if it's a small change, right? We just want to make sure to represent you the best, and your resume allows for that.
And definitely over communicate. Like we would rather have more information, more details about you, slightly more emails from you. It's all right. Yeah. Yep. Don't worry about that.
Exactly. So I know a lot of you might wonder, okay, so it's been about 2 weeks. I haven't heard from a recruiter. Like there's sometimes that we miss those emails, right? To be honest. I mean, not to say that it was our intentions to, but just know that when you are contacting your recruiter, if it's been more than 2 weeks, it's okay for you to reach out. You don't have to worry too much about sending that one additional email saying hi, I'm here, just checking in on progress. Just note that if they haven't communicated the timeline with you in that initial conversation, it's okay for you to ask that as well, right? So ask for clarity along the way, ask for that timeline, because as long as you are asking for that, our recruiters are there to give you a clarity around the process.
And sometimes it's also normal that recruiters will send you a no update,
Yes.
Which means that there is the process is still going, but there is no concrete update. So they're just letting you know that please be a little bit more patient. They will be reaching out to you at a later time. So a little no update.
Yeah, and usually your recruiter hasn't forgotten about you. For the most part, they haven't forgotten about you. So yeah, they'll get back to you. It's just that little prompt. Yes, not a bad thing for you to provide. And then the last thing I do want to mention is that the process just simply takes time, right? Because there is an internal process that we work with and a lot of stakeholders that we want to partner with to make sure that you are being matched to the best team possible, and that that we are setting you up for success with the right interviewers as well. So just keep that in mind. So I would say the gauge of knowing when to respond would be about 2 weeks. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I think about 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And then if you're just getting antsy, it's okay. Just send out that email and ask for more information. All right. Should we move on to the interview stage?
Yes. So I will share a bit more on how your interviews are scheduled and also what to expect from there. So what happens is that most of the time we would also we will have coordinators whom I partner with so that we help you schedule your interviews. So when we ask you for an interview, we hope that you give your interview slots throughout the next 1-2 weeks and give as many slots as possible, because this helps us increase the number of opportunities for us to kind of slot your interviews. We try to do it like in one together at one shot, so it's like in one day. Yeah, and so this will help us. And most of the interviews will be happening around 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we hope that this is one of the timings which would help you perform your best in your interview. So we want you to feel comfortable. And if you have anything that you would like us to know, please also indicate when you're communicating it with your recruiter. So when you're getting your interview time, do also look out for where you want to do your interview. So most places, like in the university, you're able to book a quiet room with good internet connection, and that's very important when you're doing your phone interview or your hangout interview with us. We don't want technical problems to be hindering your performance. And if you in the process when your interview is being scheduled and you have competing offers or some deadlines that you have to meet, please definitely let your recruiter know so that your recruiter can help to ensure that this is adhered to, or we can do our best to help ensure you can get a smoother scheduling process. Yeah, so and do also let us know whenever there are changes to your schedule or changes to your situation, so that we are up to date and we can react as fast as possible.
Yeah, and my point to add there is that a lot of the time that you might feel that you responding with a change in your schedule is hindering your process, but we would rather make sure that you feel confident, right, in the interview and feel set up for success. So if you are running into technical difficulties with your webcam, or we would rather that would be the secondary, not a a hindrance at all. So communicate that early as you can, and make sure that you are set up for success along the way.
And we'll work on our end to help ensure that we have like backups for you, or communicate it to your interviewer so they don't get surprised.
Yes, exactly.
And the other piece would be when we ask you about interview and whether you have any help that you need. We usually say that if you have anything that you want to let us know. So sometimes it will be on accommodations, like what type of accommodations do you need? So we really want to have as good an opportunity for you to perform well. So for example, if someone is hard of hearing, and we may avoid like phone discussions. So or we could also provide like an ASL interpreter. So these are all resources that we can provide to help you perform at your best. Yeah. So this is I think what I have for the accommodations part.
Yes. Okay. I know we're just going at it with all this information, but I hope this has been helpful so far. We will continue to go through what to expect in terms of balancing offers. So I think this is a question that I got from a lot of you when we initially sent the RSVP form. Thank you for those questions. I think initially when we think about offers, we want you to know that we understand. We understand that you might have multiple offers or thinking about, what options are good for me. And we hope that you know that we are ones to make you feel, penalized for going through a process with us while you're going through another offer that only makes sense for you. But rather in this process, we hope that you think of our recruiters as partners to be successful in your journey. And that's the first thing I do want to mention, because a lot of candidates might feel naturally like, oh, is this information I should share with them, or should I hide it from them, or am I showing the best portion of myself through this? But honestly, when I look at how offers are considered in the Google process, it only helps if you share that information, and it will not be at your risk about your application or penalize you by any means. So that's the first thing I would want to mention to any candidate who's going through the application process. So yeah, even if you're still at the early stages of an interview process or almost nearing offer stage with another company, please share it with your recruiter. They will help you to make sure that you know what to expect in the Google process, whether that's timing, whether that's the offer itself, whether that's when your interviews are being scheduled, because there's so many components in the process. The more you share with us, the more we can help you be successful in that trajectory. When it comes to deadlines, I would, if I were in your shoes, I could understand why it would be hard to be that mediator. But I think the first thing I would say is ask for time. It's okay to ask for time, especially if you need the time and you're still contemplating, like, oh, I don't know if this is the right job for me, right? I don't know how it was for you, but for me, yeah, I did have that point of contemplation of, oh, is this the best time for me? Is this the right place for me? The more you share with your recruiter, they're able to be that thought partner with you and share more information about why this might be the right fit, or like probe a little bit more about what your interests are, so that we can understand why that other company would be of interest to you as well. Okay. And then, yeah, let's see. So this is a tricky situation that sometimes happens where the other company is like pushing for the deadline to be today. Like, you need to get back to me today. Like, how would you approach that with your recruiter at Google? Just any initial thoughts?
So for me, I think before it actually, like, the offer is coming, like, there's indication that I will be getting a competing offer.
Yeah, you're not gonna get it out of nowhere.
So like there's some indication. I think that would be already the point where I'll tell my recruiter that I'm expecting maybe something in a week. And if the company does say, like, I need something today, one of the first things I actually do is to ask if there is some time for me to consider, or like ask for a deadline extension. And most companies, I would say, they are they actually
they're pretty
accommodate
flexible. Yeah, they're usually flexible to give at least 1 or 2 weeks at most. So ask and you'll receive. And that goes both ways for the other companies as well as Google. We want to make sure that you're making the best decision. So
and we want you to be happy with the decision.
So sometimes, having to feel like you're rushing might not be good for your decision making as well. So take the time that you need and ask for it if you do need the time. All right. As for accepting other offers, the first thing we would ask that you do is let your recruiter know if you have accepted or are thinking about it. The reason for this is because we just want to make sure to speed things up if necessary. And if that's your very intention, to have things sped up on the Google front, because there is things that our recruiters can do to make sure that your interview process goes a little bit faster, and that your hiring committee review is done in a timely fashion. And then I think the other main reason that I want to say is that if you do accept an offer from another company, just know that it is ethical on our end to end our process at Google. If that is your very intention to just go through with that one. So just please be honest and open with us. That's not to say we're like trying to take away an opportunity for you, but that's us doing our due diligence for the other company who you've accepted that offer with. So that's my 2 points about that. So we are actually going to recap all the things that we shared.
That's a lot of information.
I know, it's so much information, but again, you can watch this video again afterwards so that you can be informed again and again about what you should do to be successful. So a few pointers here is that your recruiter really is your partner and the only person at Google that can give you information about your application process. Right? I know there might be some additional noise with word of mouth, just your friends being like, oh, but I got my application done. Like, my application was like this, or, but at the end of the day, every situation might look a little different, be different based on the scenario, based on the interview process and those involved. So just make sure to ask your recruiter, because your recruiter will be able to tell you the most relevant information for your case. And then the next one is read your emails. The information is there for you to respond to for a reason. We want you to be successful. So you can always go back to the emails as a point of reference, and don't feel like you need to know it all off the top of your head. Those emails are there for you, and your recruiter is there for you. And then be open and honest with your recruiter and share deadlines, resume updates, just your train of thought. It's okay to feel like you don't know the exact answer to your application process or to your interview process. Maybe you don't feel as confident. That's okay. Tell your recruiter. They will give you the tips that you need to be successful. They will tell you some other cases that they've seen and give you tips on how to make sure that this application process is smooth and seamless.
So ask them any questions you have. Like, do not hold back.
Yes, do not hold back. And then, proofread, be professional and thankful. And we'll do the same, of course. We want to make sure that we have that relationship to be strong and to make sure that you feel like you can rely on us.
Yes,
you're undergo. All right, so now we're gonna move to live Q&A. This is the best part of our YouTube because otherwise we won't be able to hear directly from you. So that's why we have these sessions. So I think the first question that we did hear from our students about this piece is, what's your biggest piece of advice to be successful in the role? Prepare for it. Yeah, you want to share a little bit more about this study?
Yes, definitely. So a lot of students ask in the emails, how do they be successful in the hiring process? And one big thing I would always say is to prepare well for it. So one thing is that recruiter will share with you preparation tips, but the other thing is that your interview needs some preparation. It's a bit like exams in school. You need to practice. So for our technical interviews, it's the same. Like you need to practice the questions, practice articulating your thoughts, your thought process. How do you get the steps, and what else? Like what alternatives you think in solving the problem. So this lets the recruiter, lets the interviewer know how you think through the problem.
Yeah. I agree. And another tip that I would add there is that a lot of how you might react to an interviewer might come naturally if you are able to practice with different people, right? So I would ask that you practice with a diverse group of people who might come at different angles in terms of how you respond and how they might probe, and make sure that you are set up, get the feedback that you need for your interviews. Yeah. All right. We have some other questions here. Is it okay to reach out to the recruiter with questions such as when the results will be out after the interviews are done? What are your thoughts on this?
That's definitely
Yes.
Please do.
Yeah.
Especially if you have questions. The general guideline is about 1 to 2 weeks after your last interview. But sometimes there's like interview feedback is still getting collected or something along the way.
Yeah.
So if you're unsure, you have this question in your head, don't keep it there. Do send the email out to your recruiter.
Yeah, and just know that, like I mentioned, every scenario is different. So we might say 1 to 2 weeks, but there might be something that's delaying or making your process go sooner than you might expect.
Yeah.
So just make sure that channel of communication with your recruiter is always open. All right.
Okay, next question.
And you want to read it?
Okay. What are recruiters expecting in tell me about yourself questions?
Oh.
Well, I'll think back at what I would respond to it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would be things like what are the highlights that I want to talk about. And I think the recruiter is trying to get to know you as a person. So don't really worry too much, but you can talk about maybe your professional experience, an internship that you did, or like a fun project that you did, like your passion project. But for me, I always feel the most relevant answers would be things that you actually tie it back to the job that you applied. So that at least the person listening would still understand, like, why are you sharing this experience, and see the link to it.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think the tell me about yourself question might feel like one that it might feel like a stumping question, like, oh, like, what am I supposed to say? But I think the intention is actually not that. It's rather just to understand a little bit more about you, what makes you unique. Because at Google, we really do appreciate diverse thoughts, as well as, what you as an individual can bring to Google that's unique, right? And in that sense, it's not necessarily to have you oversell yourself, but rather just getting to know that oh, this is Betty. This is what Betty likes. This is what Betty wants to do in the future, right? So it's just a relationship building type of question.
Okay, so we'll take the last question, kind of like much to that similar.
Yeah.
So one that says that a candidate has already interviewed a couple of times, and the other one is to say that the candidate is not very successful at the first time and you want to try. So the question would be like, how does Google Recruiter see such a candidate? So I would say that over time we expect that you're learning, you're growing and improving. So no harm trying again, and we'll look at your application fresh
Yes.
when you apply the next time.
Yeah, and also you might be applying for different roles, so it might not always be applicable to carry on feedback anyways. Yeah, so don't worry that this has been, don't feel like it's a mark against you, but rather we hope to see that development over time, and also just feel like if you want to ask for more details about how you can be more successful the next round, or how it compares, you can also ask your recruiter.
Yeah. And a fun fact is that an average number of times that Googlers have applied for a role is 4 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that means so that like 3 times it didn't work out, but the 4th time they joined.
And also it's because you have recruiters who want you to be successful, right? So yeah, even if you might not get the role immediately, you can reach out in a year or whenever the time frame works in terms of your timeline. Just reach out and see what makes sense for you. We have one last question, I think, that we accidentally skipped. Is it possible to apply for internships after completing college?
I would say that our definition of internships is that during the period of time you do the summer internship, you have to be a student. So we would say that apply for our full-time role instead. Or if you are going for graduate school doing another course, then you could still apply for internships only when you're still a student at the point you do your internship.
Yeah, so I mean, there's plenty of full-time opportunities as well, so don't feel like you need to go for the internship opportunity only. The full-time opportunities are fully available to you to dive into if you're interested. That's it for our questions. If you do have any more questions, I think Elena will be online for a little bit longer for you to ask away, and she'll be there, so feel free to ask. And then the only other thing I do want to mention is that I did mention something about swag in the email. If you caught that in the PS note, we want to make sure that, we're giving you these opportunities to get cool Google swag, like the shirt that Betty is wearing, one of our favorites. It's a classic, I think. So just make sure to fill out the feedback form. It will be a raffle based on your feedback. And this is also an opportunity for us to get to know a little bit more about what we can do to make sure that our YouTube lives are relevant and they're timely, and that there's something, if there's something you want to hear more about. You can also find out more about these types of opportunities through the Connect with Google community. You can reach out to us at connect-with-google if you have any questions about that. And yeah, if you have any other questions about roles, opportunities, the best place to look is Build Your Future, right?
Yes, Build Your Future.
Build Your Future careers page for students. It gives you a huge overview about scholarships, programs, outreach events, everything. So that's the best place for you to look. And yeah, we would really like for you to apply, especially because it's the season.
Yes.
Application season is at hand. So yes, we would love to see your application. All right, and now we're gonna say goodbye.
Okay.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.